SARS-CoV-2 has the earmarks of a bioweapon that failed because it did not kill enough of us. In fact, it mostly killed the old, immunocompromised, and those with comorbidities with seasonal flu. But there are ways to create a panic. Start with flawed diagnostic testing. So they roll out our PCR tests, a technology whose creator, Kary Mullis, said should not be used as a diagnostic tool. PCR replicates fragments of what is thought to be a nucleic acid of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and that's all it does. PCR cannot tell you if the nucleic acid is amplifying is actually from SARS-CoV-2 virus genome. PCR does not measure viral load, so it can't tell if you are sick or will get sick from the dreaded COVID. In PCR, the number of positive results is directly related to the number of amplification cycles that are run, called cycle threshold. The CDC's own calculations suggest it's extremely difficult to detect any live viruses in a sample above a threshold of 33 amplification cycles. Most tests set the limit at 40 cycles, a few at 37 cycles, according to the New York Times. In mid-July of this year, Anthony Fauci stated, if you get a cycle threshold of 35 or more, that the chances of it being replication competent are minuscule. If someone does come in with a 37, 38, or 36 cycle threshold, you gotta say it's just dead nucleotides, period. Every single PCR test kit used in the United States is over 33 cycle threshold. This is why we see a dramatic increase in cases, because we are looking at a false positives of perhaps up to 90%. The PCR tests being used are resulting in so many false positives that we are misdiagnosing the cause of deaths being reported. Total fraud. Next, they inflated the death rate so they could call it a pandemic. This actual death rate from COVID was so unsatisfactory, they had to inflate it by doing a number of deceptive things. The rules for designating a death due to COVID changed. So the COVID became the umbrella category for all kinds of deaths, including those from influenza and pneumonia. Did you ever wonder where the influenza deaths went? Well, they have decided to conflate flu and COVID. There will be 2-in-1 vax for both, despite the fact that every repeated flu vaccination is known to increase susceptibility to both flu and COVID. They got to keep the merry-go-round spinning. To accommodate this bait and switch, procedures have changed so that the doctor can declare a patient COVID fatality, not just coroners and medical examiners. This is how they pollute and expand the actual death toll. If COVID-19 were a deadly disease, we should be seeing a concurrent rise in death rates when cases start exploding, but we don't. In fact, as more tests take place with commensurate positives, but fewer deaths, the virus is actually revealed to be less and less virulent. The CDC released data in August that showed that 94% of the COVID deaths had underlying conditions. Just 6% of the deaths could be said to be due to COVID. Most of these fatalities had cardiovascular disease, diabetes, renal failure, and other serious contributing factors. Remember when the media shifted from talk of deaths to talk of cases? What is the case? Is it when a person is sick? No, you are the case as soon as you test positive. You may never get ill. The flawed diagnostic test does not tell you how much SARS-CoV-2 virus is present in your body. PCR is not a quantitative test. It was very important that the MSM promote the idea of the silent spreader, despite the WHO finding asymptomatic transmission to be extremely rare. This finding created a maelstrom in which the WHO, the CDC, and mass media went back and forth with various studies, some of which speculated or suggested asymptomatic transmission, SARS-CoV-2. None of these studies proved pre-symptomatic transmissions of the virus. Thanks to the MSM and collaborating scientists and politicians, the myth of the asymptomatic spreader persists. So does the myth of repeated reinfection. When it comes to immunity, scientists cite rapidly fading antibodies as evidence that having the COVID does not provide immunity for long. What they don't discuss is a T-cell immunity, which is longer-lasting immunity. Natural infection produces more T-cell immunity than vaccination. T-cell immunity after infection with COVID had been shown to last at least 6 months. Despite people wearing their masks like good sheep, data tells us that masks seem to help the spread of COVID rather than reduce it. Masks cause hypercapnia, in which you inhale your own carbon dioxide. Masks cause hypoxia. That's when your tissues don't get enough oxygen. Lack of oxygen makes your system acidic. Acidic bodies get cancer. Those masks are also sprayed with polytetrafluoroethylene, PTFE. Exposure can lead to fever, tight chest, shortness of breath, headache, cough, chills, and sore throat. The manufacturer says it's extremely unlikely to cause illness during normal use. I wonder if normal use includes having to wear a mask for an 8 to 10 hour work shift. So a mask mandate is forced, medical intervention with unknown medical repercussions. Now, Chief Whitecoat Fauci tells us that even after the vaccine, we will still have to wear our masks and social distance. It's obvious now. This has nothing to do with the virus. It's about doing as we are told. It's about compliance. They need us masks? You should be asking, why?